microphone is muted. But there we go. My microphone is no longer muted. Hi everybody, I'm Dom and I'm here to talk with you all and our special guests. Oh god, we've got double mute site. You all and our special guests. Oh god, we've got
I hear you.
Oh,
I was hearing
I can hear you.
Where's it coming back from?
I can hear you.
But I don't know if we hear you on the stream. I hear you.
It was coming from my other thing, but now it should be fine. So apologize for all that. But yes, I am here. I'm finally back to talk about Star Trek with you all. So thank you for all your messages over the last couple of streams asking where I am. It meant a lot. But we are here talking about Strange New Worlds Episode 4, Memento Mori. And with me, I have two very, very special guests. So would you like to introduce yourselves? And also, I guess, co-hosts as well, but whatever. Texture, you can start.
Sure. Yo, what's up? I am Fathery of the Text Trek YouTube channel and podcast, and I am be here talking about some strange new worlds with some strange old friends.
Did you say strange old friends?
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
I mean, I couldn't really call y'all new friends, but
I
mean, you could have at least called me young friend, but you know.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Starfleet Boy is kind of a misleading name. I don't know how boyish he is.
You can always be a boy at heart. Don't worry.
You can.
Yeah, Peter Pan.
Just so you know. Bad example. Peter Panning, more like it. Who, when he becomes an investment banker or whatever. No, I'm just kidding. By the way, my Twitter moniker is Starfleet Boy No More. So I acknowledge that it's a weird.
Yes, and Jack has just mentioned in the chat, Dom is the youngest on the team. You don't have to say that, but yes.
Oh wow. Well, Dom, you know, for a 15-year-old, you're very, very worldly, so it's really cool.
I won't have that slander on my stream, but but no. But yes, it's lovely to have you both here talking about Strange New Worlds, and we did have a very interesting episode which we can now talk about. So before we start, I'll give a small description of just what the episode contained, and it was basically Pike dealing with I think it said in the description, a unrivaled threat, and yes, what is that threat? Who knows? You might know from watching the episode and from this live stream title, but if you haven't watched the episode, go make sure what you're doing, because we will be spoiling all of it and talking about it very in depth. But what did you two think of this episode, Memento Mori? I'll start with you, Starfleet Boy.
I really enjoyed it. I've always wanted a Hunt for Red October style chase in space, and this is about the closest we've got to it so far. And I think even the writer said they might have been inspired by that movie and many other submarine movies. But overall, I just really enjoyed this episode. Aside from the amazing space scenes, the battle and the brown dwarf and the black hole, all those sequences, I think there were so many, again, really great character moments, and we're learning more and more about this crew and seeing them do things that are they have each other's back, and they really just it's a crew that is inspiring. I think if I were I think I watch this and I think to myself that's a great way to make my own world a little bit better. Act like this character, act like Una, be less selfish, all these things. So I love when Star Trek can do that and inspire me to be a better person. And I think overall that, again, this show just kind of has exemplary examples that are amazing for everyone to kind of dig into.
Yeah, definitely. And, talking about crew, I'm sure we'll talk about your husband of this episode. I look forward to know
I'm known for this
who
now.
that is. But yes, Text Trek, what did you think of this episode.
One of the things that I took away from it that I talk a lot about when I was covering this for my show is that this was a big pivot in the tone and almost kind of like the genre of the show. It's been kind of like fun action adventure until here, and then we get a more serious dramatic war movie type story. And I think that's something that Strange New Worlds is going to have a lot of fun playing around with, is telling this wider variety of stories. The other Star Trek shows that are in production now, they're very good at the things that they try to do, but anything on Lower Decks, for example, is always going to lean more into a comedic type story. Anything on Prodigy is going to lean more, fun action adventure, all ages. Discovery and Picard, I think, both want to be like the more serious dramas. But with Strange New Worlds, it's kind of you never know what you're going to get. It reminds me of a lot of the older shows, being a kid watching Deep Space Nine and being like, oh, are we going to get like a serious Dominion War episode this week? Or is it going to be a funny Ferengi episode? Who knows? So I'm looking forward to seeing this variety of stories in Strange New Worlds. And it was important that they did a big serious one here. Memento Mori as a reminder of death and mortality, not just for the characters on the ship exploring space and being reminded how dangerous that is. And when you go out where no one has gone before, you're going to find a lot of scary things, and there's a lot of risk involved with that. But it's also not a reminder, but kind of an announcement to the audience, like, this show is kind of fun and lighthearted, but it is going to have those moments of gravitas and seriousness, and you're going to have to worry about these people. So I think it was a very important milestone in the first season of Strange New Worlds.
Yeah, definitely. And, we've got all these different shows doing their own different thing. But it's definitely nice to return to this episodic style of you do not know what type of episode you're getting next. And you can have these serious episodes, and then it looks like, for the next episode, it's going to be lighter in tone, so you're not tired from what's happening. So that's definitely a good point. And it's definitely something which, looking at, what types of episodes are we going to get? And especially in trailers, we can piece together, that part looks like a comedy episode. This part looks like a very serious episode. This episode being very submarine style, Wrath of Khan. And it's really nice to get these differences in, and yet still be Star Trek at the end of the day.
Right, and Star Trek's kind of always had that flexibility with storytelling, hasn't it? Because we go all the way back to the 60s, the original series, they would do City on the Edge of Forever, that is a tragedy, but then they would also do, a piece of the action, which is like a kind of a fun action comedy.
Yeah, definitely.
You mentioned a piece of the action.
Yes, my favorite episode. If we can get... Oh, thank you. If we can get any Strange New Worlds episode which is like piece of the action, then this show is jumping up in my rating of best Trek series. But how about we get in and talk about some of the stuff which happens in this episode. And one thing which I really love, which this episode introduces, and I'm kind of surprised we haven't got in Trek so far, is this Starfleet Remembrance Day. All the Starfleet officers have these little pins, which are about Starfleet ships and crewmen which have been lost, to remember them. And I'm actually, from this episode, kind of surprised that, we didn't really get this in other series, because we see so many Starfleet ships, unfortunately, get lost.
Could be a new holiday, though, couldn't it? Like, after the Klingon War, they had so many ships massacred that maybe they just started it within the last year or two.
Yeah, but I think
that makes sense too. I like that.
Yeah, definitely. That really does make sense. I really do like that.
They're going to keep doing this.
Like, yeah.
There's going to be Star Trek novels that have like, this is what Picard was doing on Starfleet Remembrance Day. At some point in the 24th century. Like that's a good enough idea. They're going to keep bringing it up. Like First Contact Day.
First Contact Day, and having a First Contact Day salmon, is it? It's definitely some very nice things which this newer Trek is introducing, which just enhances the Trek universe, I feel.
I wish we had a date.
Did
for
anyone?
Yes,
Yeah,
I
there's a star date.
feel there is a
Laon's
star date
log.
for this.
Star dates, smar dates. They don't mean anything.
Yeah, they're very
No, but I'm sure-
useless information, star dates.
Well, yeah, but I don't think there was a date mentioned otherwise. But there is a star date. So if you were to turn that into an actual date, it's a clue as to when Federation Remembrance Day is. What ship would you guys? I think I've asked this a couple times, but I'm curious about your answer. What ship would you guys choose to memorialize on Remembrance Day?
Well, I'll let you go first because I am blanking on what ship.
Oh,
And I want to come up with an interesting answer.
Boring generic answer because I would say the 1701 Enterprise because that is such a favorite ship of mine and it goes down in my favorite Star Trek movie, Star Trek 3: The Search for Spock. But I just love that ship is the ship of Strange New Worlds, the original series, the animated series, the first 3 movies. I love like that history. It probably has like the richest history of any ship in all of Star Trek and all of the shows and everything. But if I don't want to give a super boring, lame, generic answer that a million other people are going to give, I might say the Enterprise C because I'm a sucker for the Ambassador class. So I'll go with that.
Nice.
Enterprise
So
C,
Enterprise
Rachel Garrett.
either way. I thought Dom would go with the Daedalus.
No, I'm not going with the Daedalus. I'm going with the Franklin from Star Trek
Nice.
Beyond because, it exists in both Prime and Kelvin timeline. And I really love Balthazar Edison as a character from Beyond.
He was an evil maniac, though.
Yeah, he was an evil maniac, but he was a
Rachel
cool...
Garrett is such a better person than...
I'm talking about the ship. The ship, the Franklin, is just cool, and I like the idea. And I would actually really, really love that if Strange New Worlds actually did encounter the Franklin, and it was a completely different situation from how it did it in the Kelvin. Obviously, because it would be a TV episode instead of a film. But it'd be nice to see the comparisons between the Prime and Kelvin timelines.
Would Idris Elba do it?
Probably not. But
He's done TV stuff in the past, but I think he's more of a movie dude these days.
Yes. But yeah,
I'm gonna go with the Shanzhou, which has been my answer all weekend.
Definitely.
So the Shanzhou is
which character? What was it? The scant-wearing operations officer that was wearing the Shenzhou?
I think a few people might have been, but I hear it on good authority that Chief Kyle was wearing a Shinzo.
Oh, it was Kyle. Yes.
Yeah. So.
But I couldn't tell. I screenshot every shot of every episode and go look at them and just do weird stuff in my free time because I'm that obsessed with Star Trek. I couldn't read the writing on any of these pins. I saw other people online claim that Pike's pin was the Discovery, which makes sense. So okay, I believe that. But other than that, I have no idea who was wearing what. But
I think Spock was wearing the disco as well. Maybe I don't know.
No, he was wearing something else. Yeah.
Which should have been wearing the disco because that's the ship his sister was on.
Maybe he lost another friend on this other ship. I don't know.
The Congo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'd be cool to get a backstories on all the reasons. It would be neat. I don't know how much of this will be in the extra materials on Blu-ray or whatever, but it would be neat to get a who's wearing what pin and why they're wearing it. Writers' backstories that you never.
Yeah,
see
definitely
on screen,
with
really cool.
Uhura as well, because we know she's a cadet, but it could be that it's a remembrance to her parents and brother, who unfortunately passed away died in a shuttle accident. So that would be pretty nice. But let us know in the live chat which ship you would remember, because we've got some interesting answers, like the SS Bonaventure, which is animated series, I believe.
Yes. But that's coming from Geek Filter, aka Aaron Harvey, the
definitely animated
co-author and designer of the official guide to the animated series. So not shocked to see him rep the Bonaventure. Joel is saying the Reliant. Get Fond is saying the Enterprise D. So.
Get Fond is also saying about Picard's lionfish. I have a remembrance pin for. Livingston, that's name, yes. But
There's some concern about the dog in this episode. We see a dog on that
yes,
abandoned colony.
there is. So yeah,
But
let's talk about the abandoned
team
colony.
beam up.
We
Yeah,
don't. And I was actually surprised that we didn't get our first red shirt death on this
There's a blue
episode.
shirt.
Yeah, they.
We have a blue
Gorns draw
shirt
first
guy,
blood.
but yeah.
And there's also a bunch of people die in that first attack that Leon passes out, and we don't see what actually happened. But that 9 people total die right there, right? 3 civilians, and then 6 crewmen. So
Yes.
that is the first fatalities of Strange New World. So the Gorn, if these are the Gorn, they're very mysterious, but I'm sure they're the Gorn. The Gorn
Yeah, they are 100%
show.
the Gorn. Whether Starfleet
They
believes
must
they're the
be.
Gorn, which Starfleet probably doesn't, because
Or
Starfleet
if they can
intelligence
confirm
sucks.
it. There's nothing to confirm that.
Yeah.
Okay, this one lady says that yeah, they look like the Gorn ships. I kind of remember from my PTSD memories of childhood.
Yeah. But yeah, there was definitely a lot of discussion before this episode and obviously after this episode about whether seeing the Gorn in Strange New Worlds has retconned or changed what happens in the original series. I know both of you have talked about this on your live streams, but what do you think about this question on should the Gorn have been shown off in Strange New Worlds? And, they were. Does this change how the arena happens in the original series?
I mean, it adds texture to that. To borrow a phrase from my friend Larry Nemechek, he always says texture, not trivia. Definitely contextualizes that a little differently, but I don't think it contradicts anything in arena. I mean, you could say like, well, they are kind of and it fast and loose, like it is a little weird, but it doesn't actually violate anything that's said or done on screen in arena. I went back and like rewatched that episode, and when they mention the word Gorn, no one kind of like reacts. No one's like, oh, we've never heard of them before, but also no one's like, oh yeah, that's like a mysterious race we've heard a little bit about. So I think that there's wiggle room there for it to go either way. There's another TOS episode that I think gets more contradicted than arena, but I don't know if you want to get into that later.
Well, is that related to the Spock mind meld?
Yes, it is. And the episode I'm thinking of is Dagger of the Mind, which we thought was the first time Spock truly mind melds with a human. But Spock has been known to tell fibs before, so maybe he was just lying to Doctor.
And also, that's already been outdone by Discovery with him mind melding with the Red Angel, which turned out to be
but
Burnham's
that
mom.
was kind of a botched mind meld, wasn't it? Because it doesn't
True.
broke his brain.
Yes.
So,
Oh yeah, it's true.
when he says, "I'm not sure if this will work with Van Gilder," that I always thought that kind of still would fit, but then
That's true.
him very casually doing it with Leon here. So, but it's we can still force that peg into a round hole or whatever the expression is.
Definitely.
Just
I
Spock
didn't
was
even
lying
think
to
about
Dr.
that.
McCoy.
Yeah, one thing I think that is really interesting with how this episode retextures the arena is, in the arena, the Gorn ship is unidentifiable. They do not know who it belongs to. There's no records of such a ship existing. Now, obviously, we don't really see this ship in the episode, even in the remastered versions, but there are pictures of that ship out there, and they have nacelles. Now, the Gorn ships we see in this episode, they're very organic, very interesting, asymmetrical, don't have nacelles. So
They're more alien.
yeah, one interesting headcanon I have is that after the Gorn encounter the Federation and the Enterprise, they take their scans back and make a brand new ship. And it very much links to this idea of the strongest survive and the weak shall perish, and trying to make sure that they're the best they can be. Which I think is just a nice way to then link it into the arena and have that ship still be unidentifiable, because it looks completely different, because the Gorn have completely changed their design architecture when it came to that ship.
Yeah, and I'm
I
okay
like
with there
that
being
idea.
a variety of Gorn. Like, maybe some Gorn are more assholes than other Gorn, and some Gorn have more alien-looking ships. And the cool thing smart thing is that by this show keeping all of that Gorn stuff very mysterious, not only allows them to be kind of a scarier, strange enemy because we never can get a good look at them or anything, but it kind of allows it to be whatever you imagine it to be or whatever you need to imagine it to be for it to all fit. They don't lock themselves down into the specifics, so it kind of gives them more freedom in how to line all this stuff up.
Yeah,
Do
definitely.
you think we'll see the Gorn again throughout Strange New Worlds? Do you think they're setting them up as a
Yeah.
reoccurring antagonist?
I
I
wouldn't
think
want
they
them
want them
to,
to be
but
like
I
the
think
big
they
bad.
are.
Yeah.
Yes.
They're gonna what the Klingons were in the original series, what they wanted the Ferengi to be on Next Generation, but it ended up being the Borg. Same thing. Voyager had like the Kazon and then upgraded to the Borg. That's what they're doing here. I think they're going to be like the biggest foe, the biggest enemy that the Pike crew are going to have to deal with.
And I've seen a lot of discussion online about, in the trailer, you see this like Gremlin Baby thing on the Enterprise ship. And a lot of people have theorized that that's a baby Gorn. I'm not
cute, though. It's kind of like a
too
little puppet.
keen on that because I would just like it to be more like a weird like space gremlin that just attacks the ship.
That doesn't really track with the depiction of Gorn here as like this very deadly enemy.
Well, if it's a baby,
seem that
maybe.
Yes, but still, like I think it would kind of undercut the level of menace they built up in this episode.
Did it have the diamond eyes, the baby, or do you not see its eyes? I don't remember.
I don't think it had the like disco ball eyes.
The disco, I like that, the disco ball eyes. It's true.
I love that description of those eyes that Leon gives of eyes that
bright like
they're dead but hungry.
Yeah.
But one thing that's really interesting with Laan is that, she says the Federation teaches us that if we can empathize with our enemy, we can be friends with them. But we can't with the Gorn. They're evil. Their eyes are dead but hungry. They're relentless. But we know that eventually Kirk kind of empathizes with him, with the Gorn, and spares their life. And then I think it's mentioned in a couple of other Trek series that the Gorn ambassador and such. So
maybe that changes
I think they do.
I thought they were still making trouble because of the reference in the 32nd century of them like disrupting part of subspace. But that could have been an accident.
That could have also been let's try and make a new method of travel. Oh no, we've destroyed subspace.
Yeah.
It could also be the Gorn have been gone back and forth between being good guys and bad guys so many times in that 1,000-year gap to get to discover.
Oh yeah, and obviously Devo in chat says the Gorn wedding from Lower Decks. So
and Geek Filter points out about the Gorn food cart on Starbase 22. So.
Oh yes, with Mr. Craderleg. I really love that the Gorn that appears in Lower Decks on Starbase 22 because Mr. Craderleg is a reference to behind the scenes on Discovery Season 1 when the Klingons were eating the feast that Cole had brought, and Lorel, Mary Shifo, Mary Shifo and Shazad Latif were joking around and being like, "Oh, it's Mr. Craderleg," and that's why you have him in Lower Decks, and I think that's really cool.
Awesome.
Really cool reference.
I don't even know what that is.
A Craderleg, as in. It was first mentioned in DS9 by Major Kira, who I think says to Odo, "Let's go get Crader legs," as like a food. So it was first mentioned there, and then in Discovery, and then in Lower Decks. So we love to see it.
That's wild. That's cool.
Yeah,
there's also a Gorn that was supposed to appear in the. Speaking of like Gorn weddings, they wanted one in Nemesis at the Riker Troy wedding, but
I didn't know that.
No,
they cut that, I guess, because of CGI budget, is what I've heard. I don't know if that's true or not, but I know that the writer John Logan, right, was his name. He had that in his script, and he was like very proud of like, "Oh, I got a Gorn in the movie," and then they're like, "Actually, no, you didn't."
But then we were
Apparently,
also
Akiva
meant to get
Goldsman
Gorn
is.
in 2009, that Star Trek movie, and there was actually a prosthetic made for it, but it didn't make the cut because it was meant to be on the Klingon prison planet, which ultimately got cut. But we have a super chat, a $20 super chat from Veritas. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Who says, it's
That's
the
very
Pating
cool.
from Doctor Who, lol. Yes, from... Starfleet Boy, you're more up to date with Doctor Who. That's the small alien creature from the first season of Jodie Whittaker's season, right?
That's right.
Yes, the very small...
cute little
yes.
angry thing.
That was definitely an episode. But yeah, I definitely want it to... that future episode to fit that kind of archetype of small, terrifying thing that just messes with a ship, like goes into the Jeffries tubes, munches on some wires, and just makes a mess. That's why I want that thing, if it is a baby Gorn, or if it isn't.
Baby Gorn are going to be like a gremlin infestation of the
like
Enterprise.
gremlins. I kind of like that.
Then you get like the moral quandary of like, well, do we kill them? Do we not? Do we turn them back over? Like, what do we do with them?
And obviously we had a mention of Baby Dawn in Into Darkness with McCoy,
Right.
being like, oh yeah, I gave a C-section to a pregnant Gorn, and the babies tried to bite me.
Because they talk about Gorn using humans as birthing sacs.
Well, as breeding sacs, yes, but how the logistics of that work...
Yeah, what does that even mean?
Yeah, is it laying eggs? Is it still... Who knows?
My podcast co-host, Dave, is convinced that the Gorn put eggs inside of the people that were rescued in this episode.
Oh, that were rescued. I heard that.
He thought that the episode was obviously based on the movie Aliens, and that's why they go to a colony that has no bodies, but that's why there's like this little girl describing like the monsters that attacked her family. That's why there's an atmospheric processor that's going to blow up. He was just like, oh yeah, so obviously aliens, and these people, they must be loaded with like baby Gorn inside of their chest that are going to burst out. I am not as convinced as he is. I think it was an episode based on old submarine movies, like the writer Davy Perez says in The Ready Room. But yeah, who knows? I guess it's possible.
Yeah,
that there's
definitely. And
baby Gorn
it does
chest
make
bursters.
interesting that they use a... if I can find what particularly they used, an ultrasonic cannon on the colony to knock everyone out, it seemed. So it definitely could have happened, and why they wanted to leave some of the colonists there. But I think the bigger reason why they wanted to leave the colonists there was to just bait other ships into coming to rescue them. Because we definitely see this hunters-like aspect of the Gorn from Strange New Worlds, with them giving La'an back in a like one-man shuttle as a way of like giving back, like what fishermen do, and then this giving some of the colonists back to get in a bigger prize as bait.
I'm looking at a still of the little baby, and I don't think it's a Gorn at all.
Yeah, I don't think it is. It would be interesting if it is, but I think it would make it even more complicated if the Enterprise gets infested with baby Gorn.
It would.
In all
actually.
likelihood, they will build up to a reveal of their new Gorn design. I think we're not going to get through 5 seasons or however many they do of Strange New Worlds and not see a Gorn on screen. We might not even make it through season 1 without seeing it.
Yeah, I think
based on the
they
alien,
definitely will show them, but I don't know whether they would show them to the crew, but they might show them to us as the audience.
I'm excited because based on the I like that, showing it to us but not the crew. That's a good way of like getting around that. I'm excited because the Mahanit Shepherd alien was really cool, and it was both practical and CGI. So I have a feeling that they're gonna go the route of making a Gorn suit rather than a fully CGI Gorn. So I have a feeling that this production will present like a really cool like part, mostly suit, mostly makeup affected Gorn with CGI enhancements.
Then you get the best of both worlds, no pun intended, of how they created the Gorn in the original series and how they created it in Enterprise.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
And, you know, not to dwell on the Baby Dawn too much, but you can definitely tell that that is like puppetry instead of CG.
Yeah.
Which I really love that they are going back to those roots, not just relying on CG.
Yeah, I was surprised at the shepherd being practical, because I thought for sure they were like CGIing part of the face, and then I saw on the Ready Room they did like the behind the scenes stuff, and they had like a whole team of puppeteers animating the prosthetics that the actor is wearing, and it was so animated and had so much movement, all practically. That was very impressive for a character who's only on screen for just a minute or two. They would go all that entire process of creation, design and creation. Was really cool. Really
I definitely think they're throwing a lot of resources at this, and I think one of the other biggest things which is noticeable is only 3 years ago in Discovery Season 2 was the last time that we saw a black hole around a visual of it around Talos, and now we've got one in this episode, and the visuals have just improved massively, and it's so wild to go back to that episode and be like, you can see it getting better, and that's so weird that it's only 3 years old, and yet it can still get better.
Yeah, for sure. Those scenes were so spectacular with the black hole too. I really liked it, and I love that on the Ready Room, Dr. Aaron McDonald did a segment this time around that kind of explained how a brown dwarf and a black hole works, so that was neat.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't watched that segment of the Ready Room, but I am interested in just what the layout of this star system is, because it's got a brown dwarf which is being sucked up by a black hole, but is the black hole the replacement of this system's sun? Or is it in like a binary system? I'm not too sure on that.
Think of it as like a binary system, but with a black hole and a brown dwarf. Because a lot of
so the brown dwarf would still be the star of the system.
I mean,
or there's another star.
The black hole, because, but
there's another
star, right? It'd be like the largest object.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm guessing there's another star.
It's the Finibus system, right? Because you have
Finibus 3.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so it would be the Finibus.
I think it's a star, a brown dwarf, a black hole, and at least 3 planets.
That's a lot in
one
system.
Busy system.
Hey,
a lot of systems.
You have an octenary. Don't you have an octenary star system in Picard? I mean, come on.
Yeah, but
but that was made.
Yeah. That's true. It was made. It's true.
But like binary star systems are extremely common. Like a lot of these. Like even in our solar system, Jupiter was almost big enough that it could have had the critical mass to become a star.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, let's. I see some mention of Hema in the chat. So how about we talk about it's Hema time. And the Uhura Hema subplot, which Getfon says was their favourite part of this episode. So what did you two think about this, cadets going around the different departments in engineering this week? Will we see in future episodes Uhura going into other departments? But also just how does Hema come across as a character to you?
This was the coolest Hema stuff we've gotten so far, because it kind of allows him to do something other than be cranky engineer dude when Uhura starts to earn his respect, and then they even bond a little bit, and we get to talk about his Enar philosophy of pacifism, which is a cool continuity nod to Enterprise. Also the blue Andorian blood that we saw in Enterprise, got to see that again. And with Uhura, what you mentioned about her being the kind of cadet on the training rotation, going from department to department, it's a really cool way to show different aspects of the show. Maybe she'll be in sickbay working with Mbenga. Then sometimes she'll be on the bridge filling in at the communication station. Sometimes she's on landing party duty. So it kind of just allows her to go wherever and kind of have like that everyman type. You know, she's just she's new to the ship. So if you're new to Star Trek, if you're new to the show, she might be like a little bit more grounded, more relatable character, and her exploration of the ship and of the universe is going to make it easier for you to go on that journey with the characters. And the thing of having a cadet go through all these different departments, we've done that before in Star Trek, right? You know, Wesley was doing that on the Enterprise. He would go help different departments when he was doing his acting ensign stuff. We definitely saw that a bit with Nog on DS9, with Icheb on Voyager. So it is a thing they've done before, and it reminds me how they initially talked about Discovery. If y'all remember way back when, describing their character, Michael Burnham was going to be someone not on the bridge. She's not in command. She's not even a bridge officer. She'll be kind of moving around different parts of the ship. And, you know, that's sometimes she would be in engineering with Stamets. Sometimes she might be up on the bridge. Sometimes she would be in, you know, the science lab doing something. I think that was the original idea that Brian Fuller had with a character that would kind of just go wherever the story needed her to go and wherever the audience needed to have a perspective. But they're actually doing that now with Uhura.
Yeah, and Getfond also mentions in the chat that now we know where Uhura got her training to fix the comm system, which is a very interesting way to link her technical expertise in, I forget which episode of TOS that is, but she was very competent in fixing that. And now we know it's probably because of being under Hemmer's tutelage, which is actually pretty cool.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. Will we ever learn how she learned the fan dance?
I hope not.
I think Hemmer teaches her that as well, but I don't think they're going to get to that till maybe like season 3 or 4.
Yeah, it's a very Anar thing, origin.
Yeah, the fan dance of the Ice Moon.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh man, it would be cool though if that song though is a Enar song. It would be pretty awesome if like he's singing "The Moon is a Window to Heaven" or something like that.
It would definitely be a way to make that film better, but that's not a high bar.
I liked in particular getting more information about Hemmer's. Well, the pacifist versus passivity discussion that came up, or the point that came up. I really enjoyed that a lot, and then I loved learning that he's into plants. That he wanted to be a botanist. I think he said, right?
It should have been like Sulu, because Sulu,
too.
in addition to be a helmsman, Sulu was also a weapons expert, a physicist, and I guess like his hobby was like botany.
Oh wow! What is that called? A polymath, right? Like Sulu is a polymath, like into many disciplines of study.
Yeah, I think he only had one husband in Star Trek Beyond.
No, that's not the same thing. That's polyamorous father. Let me look it up. Polymath. Hold on.
Yeah, I think that's
definitely
right.
a man of many
talents.
A person of wide-ranging knowledge or learning. Yeah, I think I got that right. Yeah. It's been a while. It's one of those SAT words, and I've been out of.
Well, that's
as
why
I said earlier.
I don't even know how to spell SAT. So.
Yeah. But yeah, we not only follow Hemmer and Uhura in this episode, we do get some scenes with Mabenga and Chapel in sickbay and talking about archaeological medicine. And we get to see some of Chapel's very interesting bedside manner.
Aces.
And it feels like you're giving birth out of your mouth, I think.
Chapel is very weird, isn't she?
Yes.
She's kind of she's just kind of like I don't know, like a weirdo. Like the way that she flirts with Spock. I like it. I think it's real interesting, and you know, I feel like they have such freedom to do whatever they want with her, because the Chapel we get in the original series is just so bland, and I guess there's like one Chapel story, maybe two if you count some animated series stuff. But pretty much she has no personality, and you know, they had to do something. They had to give the character something to do. So I like what they came up with. She's kind of unique.
Yeah, and to be honest, I actually laughed when she was like, "Oh, you shouldn't go into septic shock because I hear it's like giving birth out your mouth." I felt like that actually kind of put number one Una at ease slightly, and also made her make the right decision.
Oh yeah, because she's joking about. She's like, "Who says that?"
Yeah.
Kind of got her mind off of the situation and kind of. So it's good medical practice, or it's good bedside
Like, it's
manner.
weird bedside manner, but it gets the job done, and it's effective.
It was good
yeah.
for the patient. That's a
definitely.
brilliant point.
Yeah. But yeah, they're definitely swamped in sickbay, and one thing which Get Fun keeps saying great stuff in chat, but what about Mabengas Daughter when medical lost power? Good thing power was rerouted
we got that
last
explained,
week.
Though, yeah.
Yes, that
the
would have been
power supply.
Actually really heartbreaking if that didn't happen last episode, because then Mabengas Daughter would have been lost, just like that. And it's just really interesting to think about the extra ramification of what happens.
Yeah, think how bad Mbinga must feel after that. Like, oh my god, I could have just lost my daughter.
Yeah. 100%. But we do get this really nice scene at the end. Obviously, we have Una not accepting the plasma because the medical stores have been diminished from the attack. The matter synthesizers are down, so they can't make more. And she makes sure one of the other crewmen gets the last plasma. But then we see at the end, Mabenga actually is transplanting his own plasma into Una, which I don't know how he's standing up doing that, because I hear plasma is really draining. But yeah.
He was like the coolest doctor ever. I love that reveal when she wakes up and he's just like, "Oh yeah, I can donate blood and treat this other person." Who was Ensign Christina, by the way, from 2 weeks ago, from the Comet episode.
Yes. Yeah, it's very nice to notice all these small, not small, but minor crew on the ship and have them repeat. Obviously, we do get a little bit
Which is the TOS tradition.
Yeah.
Right, Leslie, Kyle, Sal.
Kyle. And talking about Kyle, thanks for that segue. We have Kyle losing a lot of people say his boyfriend, but I just think, they were kind of flirting and may have eventually become boyfriends, but he sacrifices himself to get Kyle through the bulkhead, and obviously he was the one who they said hi to in the corridor at the very beginning of the episode.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very...
They have like that friendly head nod to each other.
And it's quite sad that, that could have been like the start of a relationship between the two, whether it be friends or boyfriends or whatever. And then it was cut short just like that.
I like the ambiguity of the scene because you can see it as that. You could also see it as like they know each other very well, and they're just like smiling at the chance that they ran into each other at the hall. There's so many ways to read it, but bottom line, what's tragic about it is that like at the end, the sacrifice he makes is very noble and awesome, but Kyle's left now to like kind of deal with the ramifications of this. He was trying to save him, and it turns around that he ends up being the one being saved. And so is he going to have survivor's guilt? Is he going to what's going to go on? Just to note, in my personal headcanon, they are together because we're in a throuple. So Kyle's my husband, and so is that guy. That we were in a three relationship. So
speaking of Polymath.
So thank goodness there's still just me and Kyle, but no, but no, he was an interesting character because again I think it reinforced this whole idea of like people having each other's backs on Pike's Enterprise. Like everyone seems to sacrifice for someone else on this ship, and I really like that. Again, a really good noble message.
Yeah.
It was a calculated move, too. It was like, I'm injured. He's not going to be able to get me past the bulkhead. So I'm going to push him to save him.
Yeah. It was, and you see that in the scene. It's very nicely done.
Yeah, you. It's a nice thing that you brought that up because you have that being shown multiple times in this episode from Una, letting someone else take the plasma. You have Kyle's boyfriend sacrificing himself to save Kyle. It's very nice camaraderie on the Enterprise crew. These guys, they're a family. And they have each other's backs.
Flex move from Una too when they're like, oh no, this other patient needs the plasma, and she was like, well, give her the plasma, that's an order, I'm gonna pass out now. It's like, well, I can't argue with you, you're passed out, so we have to sedate you, so I guess I gotta follow your order. But then that allows Mbenga to have like the cool opportunity to be like badass super doctor and donate blood while he's treating Vincent Christina. So
I did really, really love the scene where they were in the Brown Dwarf and they were having a sit rep of what was happening, and we're in Pike's ready room, and you have Mabenga being like, we're not getting anyone any better, we're just doing triage. You have Hemmer being like, oh, this thing is going to blow up and take out the whole ship. My hand is broken. I cannot do it. And it was just really nice.
All of it.
Yeah. One interesting thing I think it was Jörg Hildebrandt, I think his name is, on Twitter, is that Pike in his ready room lounge area now has a saddle just there, because he's a horse girl. Yeah, that's just how Pike is. He needs his saddle on the ship, even though there's no horses, just in case there's any horse-like aliens he encounters on those strange worlds.
That movie Urban Cowboy with John Travolta when he goes to that chick's apartment and there's a saddle there for whatever reason.
The saddle's there for the...
That's a reference that goes over my head.
The saddle's there for the horse
movie
play.
Urban Cowboy set in Houston, Texas.
But yeah, were there any other interesting things which you guys noticed and want to bring up that you really liked in this episode? Something which interesting, piqued your interest?
Sure, yeah. Well, I think what you were just talking about with that, the meeting in the ready room when they are really stressed. They have the environmental systems down. They're all sweaty from the heat from the brown dwarf. The fact that the hits they took from the Gorn actually have tangible damage, you can understand these, sink your teeth into these ideas okay, so their sick bay is damaged, so they're not treating people. Oh, the cargo bay is broken, so they can't get Hemmer and Uhura out of there, and Hemmer's hurt, so he can't stop the processor from blowing up and going nuclear. So instead of it just being structural integrity is down to 33%, it actually had something with a more emotional connection to it. And so I thought that was really good writing there, and strongly conveyed visually with the sweaty atmosphere that was based on the old submarine, because all the submarine movies, they're always these smoky, hot, sweaty situations in the subs. So what was the one that Davy Perez, Starfleet boy, do you remember which one he said he drew the most inspiration from? It was the Clark Gable one, right? Run Silent, Run Deep, is that the name of it?
I think that's the one, yeah. I think it's the one.
But also DOS Boot, Hunt for Red October. So and to me it felt a lot like the DS9 episode Starship Down, which was also the Defiant going down into a gas giant to evade some Jem'Hadar, but the crew is kind of in different situations in different parts of the ship. Kira's trying to treat an injured Cisco and keep him from passing out into a coma. Worf is in command of the ship from engineering. He's got to learn to work with these engineers that don't like being bossed around like officers. Yet Jadzia and Bashir were in danger somewhere else. So you had all these different storylines going on. Oh, and of course Quark and James Cromwell trying to stop that torpedo from blowing up that's stuck in the hull of the ship. So that was kind of Hemmer and Uhura having to stop the processor from blowing up. So I felt a lot of callbacks to Starship Down, but I don't know. Starfleet boy, what about you?
Well, I definitely agree with what you're saying. To me, the most interesting thing was, ironically, the thing that I think the episode didn't deliver on was I was really curious about La'an and her time on the Borg. I mean, the Borg. I called them the Borg. That's the second time I've done that. The Gorn. on the Gorn planet, and we got references to it, a few times now, and we've been dealing with her thing. And so I think that like I would have liked to have seen more of that. Maybe not like in the gory sense of seeing what the Gorn were
Mm.
doing, but just like it did. It felt like that was the part of the episode that was a little Deus Ex Machina, that her brother had translated the light code and had created a guide, like a sort of guide for it, and that she had somehow learned it, and that the mind meld cleared. I get like, the mind meld may have cleared up that memory and like allowed her to be able to, indeed translate this code from what her brother had gotten her. But I wish some of the scenes where we saw the brother just like standing there creepily had actually been flashbacks, so that we got a little bit more time with her and her brother, maybe some more tenderness showing how he looked out for her, why he would sacrifice himself. I also agree with a theory somewhere that maybe he's not dead, that
Yes,
we're relying on her own memory, and so maybe we will see more of the brother, and we will get more,
I think
information
that's
about
very
their
likely.
time.
Yeah.
That's very
Um,
likely, yeah. So
Sorry, go on. Finish.
no, no, I was actually waiting for
Oh,
what you were
okay.
gonna say.
Well, one thing I was trying to say, so one episode of Star Trek which I watched very recently, I think it was yesterday, was the Discovery Season 1 episode, is it Leafy? Is that how you pronounce it? Episode 6.
Oh yes.
And it's where Sarek's mind is fighting back against Burnham to stop her from delving deeper and finding the trauma that's there. And that very much reminded me of this episode where there's a barrier and the mind meld can't get through to access the more traumatic parts of that memory. So I felt that was a very interesting connection, probably not intentional, but it was just
That's
something that
great.
came out to me because I had recently watched that episode.
That's great, and it also leads me to believe that there is more, since they did establish that the
They
mind had
teased
created
that.
some kind of a.
Yes.
Yeah, you're right. So yeah, good call. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
great.
and talking about that mind meld, Dadmiral in the chat asks, what did you guys think to the Burnham reference? So obviously when the mind meld happens, not only can Spock access La'an's mind, but La'an is getting a little insight into Spock's mind.
Well, it was immediately touching. As soon as I heard that, and then of course hearing Sneakwa Martin Green's voiceover, I was like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. And it reminded me of in Doctor Who, Madame de Pompadour, who says a door open one way can, you can walk through the other way as well. So it kind of reminded me of that, like Spock's like a younger, less experienced mind melder, so he's not able to like keep certain things, hidden from other people that are in a mind meld with him. So I dug that a lot. I thought that was cool. And then when you said the reference to Lethe, that makes complete sense with what they were establishing with the barrier and everything. That was cool.
Yeah, definitely. Texture.
Should acknowledge the history with Discovery. They should incorporate that into Spock's character. That's one of the unique things that Strange New Worlds can do that they didn't do on the original series or with Nimoy Spock on Next Generation or any of the Star Trek movies or in the Kelvin universe. We talk about, we've seen so much of Spock. He's arguably the most iconic Star Trek character ever and possibly the one who's been explored the most. So why do you have him on this new show when there's already been so much Spock stories? But one of the things they can do that no one else can do is deal with Spock, the fallout of Spock's relationship with Michael. And I think Strange New Worlds works great as a gateway Star Trek. It's actually the one I don't know if I can say this total confidence now with only 4 episodes, but I think by the time the season's done, I'm going to be like, yeah, if I want to get people into Star Trek, this is the show I'm going to tell them to start on. And when they hear things like that reference other shows, and they're like, oh, what? The Spock had a sister? What's he talking about? It's like, yeah, you got to watch Discovery to see all that. It's kind of like a friend of mine talked about with Star Trek Lower Decks. They were showing that to people who hadn't watched a ton of Star Trek, and there's so many callbacks in Lower Decks. Every episode references 30 other episodes. On my show, I do a segment actually called Gorn Eggs, where I go through all of the Easter eggs and continuity connections, and it's always a lot of work with Lower Decks because they pack so much in there. Geek Filter can tell you what I'm talking about if he's still in the audience watching, but But yeah, a lot of people are watching Lower Decks who haven't seen a ton of Star Trek, and they're going and wanting to explore these other shows. And like, oh, what, like Catfish? People turn in like Catfish when they went at Warp 10? What? Like, oh, I need to watch this. What is this? Yeah, everyone hates this episode. That sounds crazy, or like stuff like that. And uh, I think Strange New Worlds is positioned to do a lot of that as well. And as a gateway Star Trek, I think that's a great thing to have in addition. When you can, hey, you like the Gorn? We'll go watch the episode Arena. Like, yeah, it's 1960s prosthetics, but just try to roll with that, and you might like it. It has kind of a thoughtful story to it.
Yeah,
I think that's cool.
Yeah, I actually watched Arena before this episode came out to be like, okay, we're gonna get Gorn. Let's watch Arena, see if, anything gets contradicted or if it just, like we said, adds texture to it. And one thing I really, really loved is that in that episode, it establishes that the Gorn were able to fake a Starfleet communication and intentionally lure the Enterprise to Cestus 3 to then be like, oh, send your captain down with all his security team because, yeah, we want to give you a dinner.
Yeah.
And then
a big banquet. It's gonna be awesome.
And then they mortar them,
and
it's like, that is really cool. And then in this episode, we have, okay, they're letting this group of colonists go so that they can lure in another ship and then get more prey. So that was very interesting. But we are coming up on an hour. But one thing I do want to touch on before we end off is next week's episode, which is called Spock Amok. Have you guys seen the previews and promos of next week's episode?
I saw a teaser.
I always avoid, like, I don't watch the clip in the ready room or anything. I always wait until I can actually see the episode. I try to avoid everything going in, but I'm gonna watch it.
Except for when he's watching his screener.
That's probably what I'm gonna do later tonight, to be honest. But I will be seeing it very soon. But I'm excited to see what I was talking about a second ago, Dom, with Strange New Worlds having that ability to pivot to different tones and different genres. And I know we're getting a big pivot again next week, especially coming off of this episode. And so I'm very looking forward to seeing the different flavor of Strange New Worlds that I'm expecting in Spock Amok.
Yes, the main thing which I am interested in with Spock Amok, which I'll just get right now, it's right next to me, is the return of Starbase 1. There we go.
Beautiful starbase. Not sure where exactly it is or how many parsecs away from Earth it is.
I think, isn't it around Jupiter? I feel that's
isn't
where
it Jupiter Station?
I think it got moved, but
no. Originally, it was outside the Sol system, and now it looks to be next to Jupiter. I think
it's outside the solar system, but I think it's also in orbit of a planet, which
as in Discovery, yeah, it is in orbit of a blue orbital body.
Is that supposed to be Pluto?
Oh wait, is it?
No, what? It's 100 AUs
is it
out.
Earth in Discovery?
No, because it's 100 AUs away from Earth. So yeah, it's just on the outside.
What's 100 AUs? What would that be?
That was some planetary body within some planetoid within the Kuiper belt, right? Maybe.
Oh, okay.
Possibly, yeah. But yeah, it looks to be obviously, Enterprise took a massive beating this episode, and when they started to sell this series, they were talking about, oh, this is going to be episodic, but there is going to be emotional through lines between the episodes, and a lot of people talk about the Enterprise as a character, and it seems like that is true. She took a beating in this episode, and she's trying to go back to Starbase 1 to heal.
And
TLC. I really love that. So yeah, we have got some ratings in the chat. Donny Person said 10 out of 10 Starfleet commemorative pins for this episode. Geekfield said it was their favourite episode so far of Strange New Worlds. But overall, what did you two think of episode 4 of Strange New Worlds, Memento Mori?
it was aces as far as I'm concerned. So, just yeah, the show so far is firing. Every episode, I've enjoyed every single episode so far, and I'm like kind of worried. Like I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't think I've enjoyed every single episode of a Star Trek show. You know, I give everything tens, but it's very nuanced within those tens, Fathery, just so you know. I don't give everything tens, by the way, but I am giving everything this season a 10 so far, which is insane.
Oh,
it's up there with Picard.
This episode gets a 10 out of 10 from you, right?
I'll
Yeah,
correct
it's another
that.
10
Geek Filter says that Spock and Mock is their favorite episode, so they've probably got spoilers, screeners. So yeah, a little spoiler there. Geek Filter says it's great. Hopefully that
I'm looking forward
comes
to
be
it.
true. Because yeah, I'm
It
very
does
much
look
looking
like,
forward
by
to
the
it.
way, Starbase One is around Neptune from the pictures that I'm
Is
seeing.
it
there in
Neptune?
the-
Neptune.
Oh, maybe they'll have like Neptunians from the Mego toys. They used them in the comic. J.K. Woodward threw them in one of those Mirror Universe comics.
Oh, did oh.
I was like, what the hell is this?
Oh.
What is this alien? And I asked the artist, and he was like, that is a Neptunian. I based it on the Mego toy. I was like, oh, that is a awesome deep cut.
But yeah, we've got Get Fond with 9, Dadmiral with 9, Valamist with 9. Looks like a lot of 9s. A 4 out of 4. Want to know why you're choosing out of 4? 8 out of 10, maybe 9 after some Surrey and Brandy. Yes, we could all go for some Surrey and Brandy right now. And yes, I really enjoyed this episode. But I'm definitely looking forward to next week's episode, obviously just because of Starbase One. So yeah.
Right on.
We'll be back next week to talk about it. I'm so excited.
Yes.
What a fun chat this was.
Yeah, it was very nice. So thank you all in the chat for sticking with us for this hour and a bit long talk about Memento Mori.
Dom, what was your rating?
My
Did you give it a
rating? I don't really rate stuff. I
don't either.
I will say it is watch it. That is my rating for this. It's either watch it or don't watch it. And this is watch it.
I like that.
If I could real quick give it a rating,
Yeah.
I would, because I really enjoyed this episode, like I said, but I would rate it 7 flag-covered caskets out of a miracle born from truth.
That's a good one.
So sweet. But yeah, throughout the week until you can see us next, where can the people in our chat find you guys?
You can Google Starfleet Boy and I'll come up all over the Googles. Thank goodness. I'm the only one so far. So
He's
you
like,
can just
he's like
Google that.
Beetlejuice. If you say his name 3 times, he'll just come up, he'll appear.
Yeah, I'll
Just
appear.
don't say it in a mirror or else. Yeah.
Yeah, it's Candyman.
Ooh, we got a super chat from
Thank you.
Geek
Thank
Filter,
Geek Filter, so
$5
much.
from Geek Filter saying thanks for an enjoyable hour of Trek chat. Well, thank you very much.
Nice.
It's
That
always
was very
a pleasure to talk about Star Trek. We've had a lovely chat, live chat this week. So we thank you all for appearing here. And yeah, Text Trek, where can people find you?
Well, you can follow me at TXTrek on the Twitter. We also do a live show every Friday night at 7 p.m. talking about the latest episodes of Star Trek. When there's no new Star Trek, we talk about old Star Trek, but there's always new Star Trek these days. And you can also listen to that show wherever you get your podcasts.
Very nice. And yeah, I am Dom. I'm Dom D Paris on Twitter, where I mostly talk about random headcanons like the GORN getting nacelles, or just posting videos of Eric Banner saying, "Hi Chris, I'm Nero," because that's always a great scene from Star Trek 09. I'm the assistant editor here at Trek Central.
Hi, Christopher. I love it. Hi,
It's so good. And yeah, looking forward to doing more of these streams in the future to talk about Strange New Worlds, and just bring some cool new videos. We had one out recently on the USS Archer from episode 1, which was really great to write about, and our great talking person, I'm blanking on words, narrator,
narrator.
Did an excellent job there. Lieutenant Adam is great. It's been a long hour.
I love talking person.
He is a great talking person. He is one of the best talking people I have met.
I think you're a great talking person.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, you're a great
You
talking
two are
person.
too. But before I lose all my words, that is it for this week. So thank you very much for tuning in. Goodbye, Christopher. And we'll see you next week. Live long and prosper. Oh no, I need to